Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing the SIDI Genius X WYVE road cycling carbon shoes. The SIDI Genius X WYVE shoes are part of SIDI's new 2026 lineup of road cycling shoes that introduces improved fit, comfort, and performance. Built on the Genius X platform, these add a new upper mesh material with targeting reinforcement to reduce weight and improve the comfort. You can see this also has their new logo, so the SIDI brand is also a little bit more modernized. It's hard to read, but it looks cool at first glance. Basic cardboard box, and you can see the version we have. Specs are printed here with a label. On the underside, just basic things with the logos and showing the history of it. I'll go ahead and open this up. We'll go over the specs. Retail price on these shoes is $380. It features the WYVE Mesh on the top, along with TPU reinforcements. These shoes feature the new Millennium Fit. So you can see, unlike the SIDI shoes of the past, it actually has a wider toe box. So it should be a lot more comfortable for a lot more cyclists. The closure system has their own NUUN 001C aluminum dials. So similar to BOA, but only has micro tightening and then a full tension release option. It has their R3cc carbon composite sole. So not the stiffest one, more designed for all-day rides. And then 3-bolt compatible with some mesh or some venting on the bottom for additional ventilation on warmer days. As far as what comes with it, obviously you get the 2 shoes, some basic packaging here, and then the little product manual with a bunch of languages in here. Now let's take a look at the weight of these shoes. This is the Euro 43. This is a men's variation, also is a women's variation. You can see the left shoe is 337 grams. And we put the right shoe on there. Almost identical at 336. Visually, the SIDI Genius X WYVE shoes continue the design of the popular Genius X shoes with their prominent heel cup and then reinforced zones along the toe and closure section. The main difference between these and the existing Genius X is the WYVE material, and if we zoom in, you can actually see it as a little diamond pattern here. It's a engineered surface, and you can see quite flexible, and that's the WYVE material. And then you can see the TPU regions with a little bit contrasting color along the heel, and then the closure to give it a little bit more stiffness. But otherwise, a fairly soft shoe, so it should be more adjustable and better fit for more riders. You can also see it's kind of a cool color contrast. This shoe is offered in a couple colors, both in men's and women's. For the men's one, there's 4 color options: classic, white, black. There's a fluoro option that adds a different color heel cup, different color cable, and different color strap compared to the base white. And then what we have here is what they call their frost gray. So it's kind of cool. It's a light blue, white heel cup, black base, a little darker blue on the reinforced sections, standard black cabling, and a transparent strap on the top. Kind of a unique look with this color contrast and pretty attractive overall. You can see the new logo pretty prominent on the strap. The backside nice and clean, another SIDI logo on the other side. And with this heel cup, you can see very prominent, and it looks similar to the Shimano one, but with this contrasting color. As far as the closure system, you can see they use their own dial system, so it's not a BOA. It's a little bit confusing at first, but it is the same ratcheting design. You have micro tightening, so you can see it's a D-shaped design. It's aluminum on the outer portion. This is their NUUN 001C. And as far as I can tell, it's only used by SIDI. But a basic D shape, and then it has this pop-up handle. So you can see if I pull that up, one side has the little textured surface, and then you can easily grab this and adjust it for tightening. To loosen it, there's actually a separate release. So similar to Northwave, I believe BOA probably just has a patent on the thing, so you can't have dual direction. But with one direction, you get a nice micro tightening. And it's supposedly aero optimized, so it's fairly flush. And then when you flatten the lever, it looks even better. And you can use it without the lever up, as it's not really practical to do that when you're cycling. You're not going to pull this up and do that. You can just kind of grab it and tighten it. But to loosen it, you really have to push the button and then pull your foot up, or use 2 hands to adjust it. So not quite as convenient as a BOA cable system with the dual direction design. But it does work well, and you can see it's a dual BOA or dual NUUN system. So you have a top strap And then you have a separate strap for the bottom. So 2 rows. That'll adjust the toe box, and this will adjust it right at the ankle region. You can see again, reinforced regions here with the TPU, but otherwise a pretty clean design and contrasting on the inside. It also says Ride in here and then SIDI on the other one, which is kind of a cool detail. As far as the fit, that's a big difference here. So unlike the old SIDI shoes, which were super narrow, this one actually looks more modern, anatomical, much wider toe box with their Millennium Fit. So again, it should fit a wider range of people. And then if we look at the base, it's carbon composite. It's only a 6 out of 12. So in the SIDI range, their stiffness goes from 5 to 12. So not the softest one, but definitely not super stiff. So more optimized for longer rides or all-day rides where you don't need the maximum stiffness. That could be uncomfortable if you ride longer. So nothing fancy here. It is a carbon composite, but just looks like black. SIDI logo, you do have markings here for the 3-bolt setup. Fore and aft adjustment. You don't have the memory eyelet center hole. And you do have 2 vents. So 1 on the front and then 2 on the sides here. Replaceable heel pad. And you can see it's nice and large. There's a screw on the back side you can get to replace this if you needed to. But otherwise nice design. And if we pull the insole out as well, you can see the insole is pretty simple. Just a foam design, some basic arch support. And you can see the ventilation built in with these little holes along the front. But the cool feature here is the Ride and then SIDI, which is a little Easter egg. After initial break-in, the shoes were actually pretty comfortable. We ended up with 1 size smaller than Shimano and other brands, as they seemed to run a little bit larger. After a few miles, they felt really comfortable. The arch support was good, and the dual dials give you plenty of adjustment. There's also nice ventilation thanks to that WYVE upper material. It's not as soft as knit material, but it's still a lot better than the previous stiffer shoes, and there's no pressure points, so for all-day rides, they seem to be really comfortable. These shoes don't have a super stiff carbon sole, but they're still stiff. They're not really soft like low-end trainer shoes. So I thought it was a nice in-between. Didn't feel like you're really glued on there like a s-phyre RC9, but eliminated pressure points for longer rides. So I think it's a nice in-between. I think the biggest problem is the NUUN dials. They're just not as good as BOA dials. They're not really intuitive, and it's hard to adjust it on the fly. You're not really going to flip up the lever while you're riding. You can kind of grab it and rotate it, but then to release pressure, you have to push the release button, which is a little bit awkward. So aside from the dials, I think also the price would be an issue. There's a lot better shoes on the market, RC9, RC7, that are lower cost. So I think this has pretty stiff competition in the US. But overall, it is a nice shoe, and it's great to see the Millennium Fit. It's a huge upgrade compared to the previous SIDI shoes, which were super narrow. I think the biggest challenge with SIDI is going to be the price point. There's a lot of shoes on the market for lower prices with more features. Something like the Shimano RC7, I believe it's in the $250 range. You get the dual dial. You don't get micro loosening. So it's the lower end BOA. So it's one direction and then pull up to full release. The nice thing about BOA, even with their non-micro loosening feature, is that when you do loosen it, it stays loose. With the NUUN dials on here, you have to hold it down so there is no lock. So if you let go, it's locked again. You really have to push your foot against it as you push down the button to release it, or use the second hand. But you can see with the Shimano shoes, you get similar heel cup, a little bit more of an integrated design versus SIDI, which has the more midsole, outsole design. But otherwise very similar shoes. It's just that the price point of the Genius shoes is quite high. And although you do have the mesh upper, it's not that much softer than something like the Shimano. There's also shoes like the Giro Imperial, higher price point, but really takes advantage of a much softer mesh material on the upper. And you can see it's essentially transparent. But you do get the higher end dual direction BOA dials, but more expensive, but you do have more adjustability, and that's a lot easier to do while you're riding. If you really want a very comfortable upper material, you go with something knit, like the DMT KR0. You can see it almost looks like a water shoe. Super flexible, almost too flexible sometimes, but you can see it's much more flexible than the WYVE design. And again, BOA Li2, so micro tightening, and then micro loosening with the dual direction ratchet. More ventilation on the bottom as well. Higher end Shimano shoes like the s-phyre Power, this is the RC9, has the alloy version of the BOA Li2 dial, but you can see only a single one with the power. But a very cool shoe with the cool color effects versus the more standard design on the SIDI. And if you really want wide and comfortable, the Bont cycling shoes, I believe, are one of the best. You can see they have the Vapor and then the Riot. Really cool gold color. You can see it's pretty dirty just from use, but more stubby on the front, whereas the more traditional pointy design, even the Millennium Fit, if you have a wider foot, you may want to look at Bont or Shimano wide offerings. What we like about the shoes is they have a flexible wave upper, so it's nice and adjustable when you're doing long rides. You don't have pressure points and then good ventilation. You also have wide anatomical shape thanks to the Millennium Fit, so they're not like previous SIDI shoes which were really narrow. These also have a dual dial system, so you can adjust the upper and lower zone separately. The main negative is the fact that it's quite expensive, especially for a mid-level shoe. It's priced closer to higher-end shoes where you have a lot more options. There's limited colors here, and the NUUN dials are just not as intuitive as BOA dials. They have a separate lever that releases upward and a release button, compared to just a simple BOA dial. Taking everything into account, we'd give these shoes an 8 out of 10. They're comfortable in terms of the fit and construction, but there's a lot of competition at this price point. Thanks for watching this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can see more content from us on our website at thesweetcyclist.com, as well as follow us on Instagram at thesweetcyclist. This is The Sweet Cyclist reminding you to enjoy the ride.